"You're gonna do exactly what I tell you, little girl," Derek Shaw hissed, his grip tightening around Marissa Cole's arm. "Or you can clock out for good." The polished smiles of the Monarch's dining room were long gone. He dragged her into the service corridor behind the wine cellar, out of view, away from cameras. The clatter of dishes and laughter from customers faded behind the heavy door. Marissa's pulse hammered, but her voice stayed cool. "Let go of my arm, Mr. Shaw. You're out of line." Derek leaned in close, his breath heavy with bourbon. "Out of line? You're the one refusing a friendly favor. Senator Palmer leaves you an envelope, $5,000 to keep quiet about something you didn't see, and you act all self-righteous?" His face twisted into a smirk. "You should be thanking me for looking out for you." She didn't flinch. "I don't take dirty money, ever." His jaw flexed, veins pulsing at his temple. "You think you're better than everyone here, huh? You forget who signed your check, sweetheart?" What Derek didn't realize was that Marissa had been recording every word. Her phone, tucked deep in her apron pocket, had captured 6 months' worth of his corruption, bribes, falsified receipts, racist remarks, and the quiet intimidation that kept staff too scared to speak. When he shoved her against the wall, she didn't fight back. She only looked him dead in the eye. "You don't want to do this." "Oh, yeah?" Derek sneered. "And who's gonna stop me? That broke husband of yours? The mechanic?" A low voice echoed from the back of the hallway. Steady, cold, unmistakably dangerous. "I'd suggest you let go of my wife's arm. Now." Derek froze. The silhouette stepping out from the shadows was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a tailored navy suit. 2 men followed, silent, but clearly trained for more than valet service. Everyone in Atlanta's upper circles knew the name, even if they'd never met the man behind it. Marissa exhaled slowly. For 2 years, she'd worked at the Monarch without anyone knowing who her husband really was. Tonight, she'd made one call, and the balance of power in that hallway had just shifted completely. Victor's gaze didn't waver. "You've got 3 seconds, Derek. Explain to me why you're laying hands on my wife." Derek's fingers snapped open as if burned. Marissa stepped aside, smoothing her sleeve with calm precision. The look in Victor DeLuca's eyes could have frozen fire. It was a misunderstanding," Derek stammered, stumbling back. "Just an employee issue, nothing serious." Victor took one measured step forward. "A misunderstanding?" His tone stayed low, almost polite. "You dragged my wife into a hallway with no cameras. You called her names. You put your hands on her. Sounds like pretty deliberate to me." The air felt thick, like the whole building held its breath. The 2 men behind Victor, broad, quiet, suited, stood like statues blocking the exit. One of them, a bald guy with a scar on his cheek, slowly reached into his jacket. Derek flinched. Marissa's lips curved just slightly. "It's okay, baby," she said softly. "He's not worth the effort." That calm voice made Derek's chest tighten. He'd yelled at her for months, belittled, cut her hours, made slick comments about her race and body, and she'd never once lost her cool. Now, seeing her unbothered while her husband stood inches away from him, Derek realized he might have been walking straight into something he couldn't crawl out of. "So you see, Derek," Victor said, stepping closer until they were face to face, "I've known about you for a while. My wife's been patient. Too patient, maybe. She said she wanted to handle things the right way." Marissa pulled her phone from her apron pocket and tapped the screen. The faint sound of recorded audio echoed through the narrow corridor. Derek's own voice, laughing about cashing in extra tips, talking smack about keeping the colored staff in check, even bragging about a special deal with Senator Palmer. Derek's face went pale. "You recorded me?" "For 6 months," Marissa replied smoothly. "Every bribe, every insult, every time you cut someone's pay or touched what didn't belong to you. You thought I was quiet because I was scared. I was just collecting proof." Victor gave a low whistle. "You've been busy, honey." "Had to be," she said. Some people don't understand boundaries until the law explains it for them. Derek shook his head, his words tumbling out fast. Wait, hold up. I can fix this, okay? Whatever you think you've got, we can work something out. You don't want to do this. Oh, I think she does, Victor murmured, eyes glinting. Marissa crossed her arms, her confidence radiating like heat from asphalt. The funny thing, Derek, she said, is that you built this place on lies and intimidation. I just turned your own words into your downfall. From somewhere behind Victor, one of the suited men spoke for the first time. Boss, he said quietly, pulling out a folder stamped with the FBI seal. They're ready to move when you give the word. Derek's eyes darted between Victor and the folder like a cornered animal. What is that? He asked, his voice shaky. You really want to know? Marissa tilted her head. Victor nodded toward his man, who opened the folder just enough for Derek to catch the unmistakable blue and white federal insignia. This, he said slowly, is the part where your world starts collapsing. Derek stumbled back until his shoulders hit the wall. You called the feds? Marissa chuckled, low and controlled. Called them. Derek, they've been here. You served dinner to them. You smiled at them, poured them drinks, bragged about your connections. Half the agents in Operation Silverplate ate your steak tartare last week. His jaw dropped. Operation what? Victor smirked. You thought you were the puppet master, but turns out you were the show. You've been under federal surveillance for months. Money laundering, tax fraud, workplace discrimination, the whole 9 yards. My wife has been the lead informant. Marissa's eyes stayed locked on him. 6 months of documentation, every falsified receipt, every side deal with Palmer and his cronies, every racial slur you thought nobody heard. It's all right there. His face turned the color of wet concrete. You set me up. No, she corrected. You set yourself up. I just hit record. He tried to gather himself, forcing a grin that looked more like a grimace. All right, listen, we can make a deal. I've got info, other restaurants, other people. You want names? I got plenty. Victor raised a brow. You think you've got something we don't already know? Marissa reached into her apron again, pulling out a slim flash drive. Ever wonder why I stayed so long? Why I never quit, even when you docked my pay or mocked me in front of customers? Because you were the connection, the weak link in a chain that runs from this kitchen all the way up to state politics. He swallowed hard. Politics? She smiled faintly. You really think Senator Palmer was the only one? Victor crossed his arms. You've been playing with fire, son, and the blaze just reached your front door. Derek slumped, his confidence draining out like air from a punctured tire. Please, I've got kids. Marissa's tone softened, but only slightly. Then you should have thought about them before you decided people like me didn't deserve respect. The distant wail of sirens began to echo outside the restaurant. Blue lights flickered faintly against the hallway wall. Marissa glanced toward the back exit, hearing car doors slam. Looks like your dinner rush just got a little more official, she said, as federal agents swarmed the Monarch. The back door burst open with a metallic slam, and a gust of cold air night swept through the corridor. Federal agents, everyone step aside! Within seconds, the Monarch's polished perfection cracked like glass. Guests in tailored suits turned in confusion as men and women in dark jackets flooded the dining room. Their badges glinted under the chandeliers. FBI, IRS, Department of Labor. Derek's face drained of color. You can't be serious, he muttered, backing away. Marissa crossed her arms, calm as ever. Oh, it's serious, Derek. This is the part where your mouth usually gets you in more trouble. He shook his head wildly, eyes darting between her and Victor. You can't do this to me. I built this place. You hear me? I made the Monarch. Victor gave a quiet laugh. You built it on stolen money, man. You were laundering political donations and skimming off the books. You just didn't think anyone smart enough to stop you was watching. An agent stepped forward. Derek Shaw, you're under arrest for money laundering, embezzlement, workplace discrimination, and obstruction of justice. He froze as the agent read his rights. Wait, hold up. You don't understand. I was doing what I was told. I've got friends in City Hall. Senator Palmer will clear this up. Marissa smiled tightly. Funny thing about that. Senator Palmer got arrested 2 hours ago. Operation Silverplate went wide tonight. The name hit him like a slap. You... what? Victor leaned in slightly, his voice low but cutting. He was your safety net, right? The man you thought would protect you? Turns out he was the first domino to fall. The agents moved in, snapping handcuffs around Derek's wrists. The clink of metal echoed through the hall. He turned one last time toward Marissa, desperate. You set me up! You tricked me! No, Derek, she said softly. You underestimated me. The restaurant staff stood in stunned silence, phones raised, filming as the manager they'd feared for years was let out in cuffs. The same man who'd once sneered at them for being replaceable now stumbled through the front doors, blinded by flashing blue lights. Marissa didn't look away. She'd spent too long pretending to be invisible. Now, for the first time, she stood tall, unhidden, unafraid. As Derek disappeared into the swarm of agents, Victor turned to her. You ready to tell me how deep this thing really goes? He asked. Marissa took a steady breath. You might want to sit down for this one, baby, because Derek was just the start. Victor followed Marissa into the now silent dining room. Crystal glasses still shimmered under soft lights, but the laughter and chatter that had filled the space minutes ago were gone, replaced by agents dusting surfaces and collecting files. So, Victor said, sliding his hands into his pockets, you're going to tell me how long you've been running an undercover sting right under my nose? Marissa smirked. 6 months officially. But I started collecting data almost a year ago when Derek first started cutting staff pay and blaming it on inventory errors. I knew something was off, and you decided to play detective. I decided to play smart. Quitting would have changed nothing. Recording, documenting, connecting the dots, that changed everything. An FBI agent approached her, a woman in a black suit with sharp eyes and a badge clipped to her belt. Miss Cole DeLuca? Excellent work. The data you gathered confirmed everything we needed. Palmer's arrest opened the door. Derek's files just blew it off the hinges. Victor shook his head slowly. You're telling me this goes beyond the Monarch? Oh, it's way beyond, Marissa said, pulling a flash drive from her pocket and handing it to the agent. That contains the final set of transactions linking the Monarch to 8 other restaurants in Atlanta, all of them laundering campaign donations, running kickbacks, or cooking the books for construction contracts. Damn, you really built an empire of receipts. Marissa chuckled. Paper trails don't lie. People do. The agent nodded. You'll both want to come downtown in the morning for debriefing. The Bureau's calling this one of the cleanest undercover operations they've seen in years. When the agent walked away, Victor turned to her, his expression softening. You know, you could have told me. I would have had your back. She smiled faintly. You always did, Vic. Just not the way I needed. This? She gestured around the room. I had to do this on my own. I needed to prove I was more than your wife. I needed to prove I was capable. Victor studied her for a moment, then nodded. You proved it. Hell, you proved it 10 times over. Marissa exhaled, her shoulders finally relaxing. It's not over yet. We've still got judges, donors, and half the city's elite about to find their phones blowing up. Outside, camera flashes lit the night as reporters gathered like vultures. Victor glanced toward the chaos and murmured, Looks like Atlanta's about to find out who really runs this city, and it ain't the men in suits anymore. By sunrise, Atlanta was buzzing. Every local news station ran the same footage. Derek Shaw being led out of the Monarch in handcuffs, his expensive watch glinting under the flashing red and blue lights. Headlines screamed across the screen. Operation Silverplate exposes multi-million-dollar corruption ring. Restaurant manager among 18 arrested in federal sting. Inside their Buckhead condo, Marissa sat cross-legged on the couch, coffee steaming in her hands, her phone vibrating non-stop. Missed calls, reporters, podcasts, even talk shows were asking to book her. Victor stepped out of the kitchen, phone in hand. CNN wants an interview. Good Morning America, too. You're trending, babe, like top 3 kind of trending. Marissa groaned. I didn't do this for clout, Vic. I know, he said with a grin, sitting beside her. But you did just expose half the city's dirty laundry. Folks are calling you Atlanta's Aaron Brockovich. She laughed softly. Please, I just wanted to get that man fired. Didn't expect to blow up a whole political food chain. Her humor couldn't mask the weight in her eyes. You know what's crazy? She said. For months, I walked in there, got talked down to, got called names, and I smiled, just smiled, and hit record. Now the whole country's watching those tapes. Victor wrapped an arm around her shoulders. You turned every insult into evidence. That's power, Marissa. The TV flickered, showing a live press conference. The FBI spokesperson stood at a podium lined with microphones. Thanks to the cooperation of an embedded civilian informant, the woman said, Operation Silverplate successfully dismantled a corruption network involving multiple businesses and public officials. When the anchor mentioned Marissa by name, Victor whistled. There it is, the official spotlight. Marissa set her coffee down, taking a long breath. The spotlight's fine as long as it hits the right people. I'm not trying to be a hero. I just want to make sure women like me never have to swallow that kind of disrespect to keep a paycheck. Victor smiled proudly. You realize you just changed the game, right? You showed that being underestimated can be a weapon. Marissa met his gaze. That's the whole point. People see a black woman in a waitress uniform, they think they've already read your story. They never expect you to be the author. Her phone buzzed again. This time a text from an unknown number. Just one line. You should have stayed quiet. Her stomach tightened. Victor noticed her face pale. What's wrong? He asked. Marissa's eyes didn't leave the screen. Looks like someone out there isn't celebrating my victory. The text glowed on Marissa's phone screen like a warning light. You should have stayed quiet. Her thumb hovered over the reply button, but she didn't type anything. She'd learned long ago that silence could speak louder than fear. Victor noticed the shift in her posture. Talk to me, he said, setting his coffee down. She handed him the phone. His jaw tightened instantly. Anonymous number? Burner phone, Marissa murmured. They used an encrypted app. Somebody's still trying to scare me off. Victor frowned. You think it's one of Palmer's people? Could be. The Bureau said not everyone would go down quietly. They froze accounts, seized servers, but corruption doesn't die overnight. He stood up, pacing. I'm calling Agent Harlow. They can trace it. Already did, she said calmly, holding up another phone. She's on it. The FBI put a protection detail outside the building last night. Victor gave her a look, part disbelief, part admiration. You really planned for everything, didn't you? Marissa smiled faintly. You don't walk into fire without knowing where the exits are. Still, as the morning light poured through the windows, the reality settled in. This wasn't over. Not even close. Later that day, she drove downtown to meet Agent Harlow at the Federal Building. The city seemed different now. Her city, yet not. Billboards displayed her face from the news broadcast, and strangers honked or waved when they recognized her. Inside, Harlow greeted her with a nod. We traced the message to a prepaid phone purchased near Decatur. Cameras caught a man in a hoodie, but no clear ID yet. So, just another coward hiding behind a keyboard? Marissa said. Maybe. Or maybe someone who lost more than a paycheck because of your evidence. You rattled a lot of powerful cages, Marissa. Stay sharp. Back home that night, she stood on the balcony watching Atlanta's skyline glitter. Victor joined her, handing her a glass of wine. You okay? I will be, she said quietly. Every system you expose fights back. That's how you know you're hitting the right nerve. He smiled. You sure you don't want to lay low for a while? She looked out over the city. The same skyline she'd once viewed from a bus stop after long shifts. No, I'm done hiding. Let them come. I've got truth, evidence, and a whole damn federal task force behind me. A car engine revved in the distance, sharp, fast, too close. Headlights flashed across their building before vanishing into the night. Victor's eyes narrowed. That didn't sound like coincidence. No, she said, it sounded like a warning. By morning, Marissa had traded her silk robe for jeans, sneakers, and that steady calm she wore like armor. She set her coffee aside, tapped through her laptop, and pulled up the digital trail Agent Harlow had shared overnight. A prepaid phone bought in Decatur, a gas station camera, a partial plate number from the car that revved outside their condo. Victor leaned against the counter. "Tell me you're not going after them yourself." She gave a half smile. "Relax, I'm not hunting anyone. I'm just checking the math." He sighed. "You know what that means in your language." "Verification," she said, grabbing her jacket. "Not revenge." The gas station sat off Glenwood Avenue, all flickering lights and cracked pavement. Marissa parked 2 blocks away, slipped on sunglasses, and walked in like she owned the place. The clerk barely looked up when she slid a photo of the plate across the counter. "Yeah," he muttered. "God drives a black Charger. Comes in for smokes, cash only. Said he's something about losing his job thanks to that waitress on TV." Marissa nodded once. "You remember when you last saw him?" "Yesterday, headed toward the old warehouse district." She thanked him, left, and immediately texted Harlow. "Possible lead, Decatur warehouse, black Charger." Minutes later, 2 bureau SUVs peeled off from a nearby street, lights off, moving quiet. Marissa's pulse steadied. She wasn't the scared employee anymore. She was part of the cleanup. Inside the warehouse district, dust drifted through sunlight like gold fog. The Charger sat half-hidden behind rusted crates. Agents moved in, silent, precise, and within moments a man was on the ground, cuffed, shouting protests about just following orders. Harlow turned toward Marissa. "He's ex-staff from one of Palmer's shell companies. They paid him to intimidate you. He'll talk." Marissa studied the man, mid-30s, bitter, desperate. "Tell your bosses," she said evenly, "I don't scare easy. They had their turn running the city. Now it's ours." The man glared, but said nothing. Victor appeared beside her, shaking his head. "You always gotta finish the story yourself, huh?" She looked at him, the faintest smile touching her lips. "Writers don't quit before the last chapter." As the agents loaded the man into a van, Harlow turned to Marissa. "You just closed another loop. The Bureau's considering you for a civilian consultant role if you're interested." Marissa blinked, caught off guard. "Consultant? People like you," Harlow said, "see what others overlook." Marissa glanced at Victor. "Guess we won't be serving tables anymore." He laughed. "Nope. This time, you're the one being served. Justice, hot and fresh." Her phone buzzed again. This time not a threat, but a news alert. Federal grand jury expands Operation Silver Plate. Dozens of indictments expected. Marissa smiled. "Looks like dessert's on its way." 2 months later, Atlanta felt different. The Monarch had been stripped of its gold signage, replaced with plywood and a federal notice. The once luxury restaurant now stood as a hollow reminder of greed built too high, too fast. Across the city, news anchors spoke in measured tones about indictments, plea deals, resignations, and audits. Every week, another name fell. Marissa watched it all from the other side of the table now. Not as a waitress, not as a whistleblower, as a consultant. Her badge read Civilian Investigator, Federal Task Force Southeast Division. She'd traded aprons for evidence bags, serving plates for case files. Her office wasn't glamorous, a small desk in a borrowed bureau wing, but it carried something she'd never had before: authority. "Agent Harlow's ready for you," an intern said, poking his head in. Marissa grabbed her notebook and stepped into the briefing room. Screens lined the wall, each showing a different case: fraud, kickbacks, exploitation. The work was endless, but she didn't flinch from it. Harlow gave her a nod. "Your lead helped us freeze another $2.3 million in hidden accounts. You've got a talent for patterns, Marissa. Ever think about going full-time?" Marissa smiled. "Let's just say I'm considering it." After the meeting, she drove home through the city that had once chewed her up and spat her out. Atlanta's skyline shimmered under the dusk light, cleaner, sharper, like the storm had finally broken. She rolled down the window, letting the cool air wash over her. Somewhere in the distance, a gospel choir practiced in an old church, their voices rising like smoke. That evening, she and Victor sat on their balcony, a quiet night for once. He grilled steaks, humming softly, while she flipped through a notebook of names, people who'd written her since the investigation. Waitresses, cashiers, night shift cleaners, all thanking her for doing what they never could. He set down 2 plates. "So, Miss Cole DeLuca, savior of Atlanta's restaurant scene, what's next?" She laughed. "Don't call me that. I'm no savior, just a woman who got tired of being underestimated." He clinked his glass against hers and made the system choke on its own lies. She smiled at him, eyes reflecting the city lights. "You know what the best part is?" "What?"
"I didn't burn it down," she said quietly. "I just turned the lights on." For a moment, the city was still. Just wind, music, and peace. Marissa leaned back, feeling the weight of it all finally lift. She'd walked through humiliation, corruption, and danger, and come out not bitter, not broken, but forged. When her phone buzzed again, it wasn't another threat. It was Agent Harlow texting one line. "Ready for your next case?" Marissa smiled, typing back, "Always." The night stretched wide before her, no longer a warning, but an open road.